My name is David Ball. I want to make it clear, I've always loved and wanted my daughter, and I always will. I will never give up. What has happened to my daughter is a scandal. I've been in a 6.5-year custody battle for my 9-year-old daughter. Convicted pedophiles have more contact with their children than I do. What the court and the experts know about me. There's never been any evidence that I'm a poor father, a poor parent, or an indecent, hostile, dangerous, violent, destructive, neglectful, abusive, uncooperative, uncommunicative, or untruthful. There's never been any evidence or testimony that I have ever harmed, abused, or neglected, or threatened such to my daughter, to my ex-wife, her family, or anyone else, or her friends. I've never had any destructive obsessions, compulsions, or addictions. I am as clean as anybody who has ever walked into a courtroom. I've been extensively investigated by the DA and his office, by law enforcement and others. Nothing has ever been found. I've undergone extensive psychological and psychiatric evaluation and testing. The court has received over 80 pages of evaluations by 3 different PhD psychologists and 1 psychiatrist. I have a lifelong history and lifestyle of contributing to the community. What the courts know about the mother. The mother is promiscuous and is taking medications prescribed for herpes pain, opiate withdrawal, and other conditions. But Judge Tracy Gilbert denied discovery requests for her medical records. My daughter has been, and possibly still is, being treated for an undisclosed virus. The court has school records, depositions, sworn statements, and other certified evidence revealing that the mother's son is a felony sex offender. Her daughter was a wrist cutter and a runaway at 15 years old. There is daily violence, destruction, criminals, drugs including methamphetamine, cocaine, Xanax, OxyContin, and ecstasy, and others. Many police visits to that home, to the mother's home. There have been many police visits to the mother's home, including one that, with a search warrant, due to the son's burglary and breaking and entering of a neighbor's home, that confiscated drug paraphernalia that was unhidden and accessible to my daughter. There have been probation violations, multiple sex partners, suspensions for drugs and violence, burglary, vandalism, shootings, disease, fighting, screaming, profanity, pornography, including bestiality. Boys and men sleeping over, my daughter sleeping at men's homes, being taught obscene language and gestures, and so much more. The courts know of the mother's falsifying evidence, aggravated perjury, forged letters, and false accusations. Well known to the courts, to juvenile probation, Dr. Edward G. Silverman, Laura Marburger, Lynn T. Coleman, Teresa Burbank, and others, the mother provided and reared her young children on graphically sexually violent entertainment, resulting in the mother's teens becoming violent drug-abusing criminals who attended alternative high schools. Their mother and her family and her friends have harassed me and threatened me by phone, out shopping when I was shopping, at my home, coming to my home and threatening me at my home, and at the courthouse. I've never threatened them or harassed them. I've never threatened or harassed them. They have actually come to my home and threatened and harassed me. Now, about the courts. I demanded a jury trial, but Judge Suzanne Stovall waived the jury trial. The judges refused to comply with the local rules and rules of the Texas Supreme Court, specifically with regards to compelling the mother to produce mandated discovery. Despite years of hearings, Rule 11, hundreds of emails, letters, conferences, and conversations, the judges refused to compel the mother's discovery, yet granted years of continuances because her discovery was incomplete, including continuing a preferentially set trial. Now let me explain. They continued the trials to give her time to complete her discovery, Yet in the end, they never did compel her discovery. We never got it. And they continued the trial for over 2 years. I was provided, then the judge allowed the mother and the opposing attorney and the amicus attorney to change the final decree. After the judge allegedly signed it, the judge signed the final decree without a trial, without my signature, without my attorney's signature, and without compelling the mother's discovery. I was not provided a copy of the final decree until 22 days after it was allegedly written, after it was signed by the judge, Judge Stovall, Suzanne Stovall. The judges ignored the overwhelming, certified evidence of violence, hostility, aggression, and abuse by the mother and her family and her friends. The judges disregarded or denied 7 years and over 1,000 exhibited, provable charges of contempt on the mother, including failure to pay child support, interfering with child custody, abuse of our daughter and neglect of our daughter, and worse. I have always complied with every court order, but every court has failed to enforce my constitutional rights, civil rights, parental rights, legal rights, and the specific rights granted me by the court. The mother has failed to comply with any of the court orders, but the courts have failed to enforce any ordered duties or responsibilities on her, or any of the courts, or enforce any of the duties or responsibilities on the court experts. Now, it's very important that you understand that the Constitution, nobody is above the Constitution, not the President, not the Congress, not a Supreme Court Justice, but Judge Stovall waived my constitutional right to a jury trial. She gave me 2 years. She kept continuing the case, wanting me to have a bench trial. I refused. I demanded a jury trial. And finally, in the end, she waived my constitutional right to a jury trial, and there was no trial at all. She just signed a final decree written by the opposing attorney. The judges and experts, by that I mean Dr. Edward G. Silverman, Teresa Burbank, amicus attorneys Lynn T. Coleman and Laura Marburger, have documentation of the mother's 20-year history and pattern of irrational hostility toward the fathers of her children. Over 20 years, history and pattern of medical mistreatment of her children with steroids, psychiatric drugs, numerous prescription and over-the-counter medicines, and significant dental neglect of her children. She secretly yo-yoed our daughter on steroids from 2006 to 2008. Secretly yo-yoed our daughter up and down on steroids from 2006 to 2008. Medical abuse and neglect of our daughter and the mother, the experts know of the medical abuse and neglect of our daughter and the mother's sworn statements in a sworn affidavit to the court of her refusing doctor's orders and telling the daycare to not comply with the doctor's orders. Her family has 4 generations of abuse. There's no history of abuse in our family. She secreted her 2-month-old and 14-month-old children 1,200 miles from their father, and for 15 and a half years, she and her family and her friends denied any contact between them. Every attempt he made to contact his children for 15 and a half years was intercepted. That's enough.